This city's home to one of the world's most famous investors, Warren Buffett, but is it also home to a buffet of sports venues? Let's find out. Here are the stadiums and arenas of Omaha, Nebraska. Although it is diminutive in stature, Morrison Stadium is one of the most impressive college soccer stadiums going round. It just has a bit of everything. Firstly, spectators are greeted by a beautiful brick and stone exterior, complemented by some metallic cladding, and a clock tower. It's kinda weird how just one of the brick towers has a clock, but I guess that makes sense. If you have two clocks, then time goes by twice as fast. I think that's how it works. That's why Big Ben is living in the year 2567. Once inside, spectators have the choice of sitting in covered bucket seats or out in the open, on the grass embankments and the grass terracing. Oddly enough, the field has less real grass than the stands do. It is artificial turf, but that's not particularly unusual when it comes to college soccer. It's not just college soccer that is hosted. In 2010, this ground hosted a women's international between the US and the Swedish country of Sweden. Two of the juggernauts of women's soccer facing off in a stadium that holds just 6,000. That probably wouldn't happen today. The Blue Jays women's basketball and volleyball teams play at DJ Sokol Arena, which has a very similar brick facade following the same design language as the other buildings on campus. Design language? I really shouldn't use terms like that. New viewers might mistake this for being a serious channel that isn't run by a buffoon. We can't have that. Anyways, it's looking good. As for the interior, it's nothing too far out of the ordinary. The best aspect is probably the video boards. They are rather large considering the relatively small size of the arena. Charles Schwab Field, Omaha. Omaha's got to be one of the only cities without a Major League Baseball team that still has a ballpark as its largest stadium. This place is so big because it hosts the College World Series, for which it can be expanded to accommodate up to 35,000, with the help of temporary seating. And that is basically the lower end of Major League ballpark capacities. It also hosts the Big Ten baseball tournament, and is the permanent home of the Blue Jays baseball team. But it goes without saying that this place generally looks pretty empty for their games. At least their first ever game here was a sellout. But yeah, an interesting venue. I guess it's like the baseball equivalent of that big softball stadium that we saw in the Oklahoma City video. Oh, and I mentioned Warren Buffett in the intro. Well, Charles Schwab, whom this stadium is named after, is seemingly like a Warren Buffett light. Burke Stadium. The city has no significant college football stadiums, but there are a few decent high school ones. This is probably my favourite of the lot. Not due to the architecture, that's nothing special. It's the landscaping and gardening that I like, which might sound a little strange when talking about a stadium. It's a sunken bowl with grass embankments beyond the end zones, a familiar design, but it's not often you can sit under the shade of a tree and watch football whilst in a proper stadium. CHI Health Center, Omaha. Omaha might not have any big major professional basketball or hockey teams, but this is the largest indoor arena in the state and apparently the largest public project in Nebraska's history. I don't know what it surpassed, but it's safe to assume that it had something to do with corn. Perhaps an ethanol plant or something? Anyway, from 2008 to 2021, this place hosted the US Olympic swimming trials. A new pool had to be constructed and dismantled each time. Those pools would then be transported to other cities and then become permanent pools. From 2024 onwards, it hosts the Omaha Supernovas, a professional volleyball team. I know little about them, but I love their logo and colour scheme. Yes, the nearly 19,000 capacity is a little bit too big for them, but I don't know, maybe they could cover some of the seats with white bags so they look like stars in the night sky. Because, like, supernovas. Baxter Arena. This sleek modern venue is home to the University of Nebraska Omaha's basketball, volleyball, and most importantly, hockey teams. I say most importantly because they are the most popular and successful team that represents the school, and they were at front of mind when Baxter Arena was being designed. There's even an attached ice rink for the general public. When it comes time for basketball, they don't even bother with retractable seating behind the baselines. They just bring in the curtains and block off the ends. Either way, I'm sure both teams prefer to play here than at their old venue, which was a lot further from the campus, and they also had to share it with other teams. We'll get to that one soon. Werner Park is home to the Storm Chasers, formerly known as the Royals and briefly the Golden Spikes, a minor league baseball team that used to play at Rosenblatt Stadium, which was located at the same site as Charles Schwab Field, and served the same purpose hosting the College World Series. Rather than staying there and playing at a ballpark that is way too big for them, they built their own home way out in the suburbs. Despite the considerable distance from downtown, this place still gets a lot of use. Besides the Storm Chasers, it's often used for the state high school championships. Sometimes the Omaha Mavericks baseball team plays here, and it's also home to Union Omaha, a professional soccer club, which is pretty common nowadays. I wonder if Union Omaha staff are unionized. Is there a Union Omaha union? Not sure. I know the baseball team wouldn't have one because, well, it just wouldn't last long. 3 strikes and they're out. Liberty First Credit Union Arena. This place is also known as the Slaughterhouse, presumably because it's home to an indoor football team called Omaha Beef. It's par for the course for teams to be named after animals, but not specifically the meat. You know, because meat gets devoured, so it's not very intimidating. In case you were wondering, vegans are allowed to attend Omaha Beef games, but they are segregated from the beef eaters and kept in their own special area. It seems harsh, but they are fed a nutritious cornmeal-based gruel. And the practice of branding them with hot iron has now been replaced with a more ethical ear tag. I don't have any beef with the beef, because they are back-to-back champions, albeit in 2 different leagues. A 3-peat beckons, so there is a lot at stake. Okay, let's not stew on it, enough ribbing. This was the previous home of the Omaha Mavericks basketball team that I mentioned earlier. They no longer host basketball, just hockey, roller derby, and the beef. And now some honourable mentions. A couple stadiums that I can find very little information about. Seaman Stadium. I'm not gonna go there. The person that Seaman Stadium's named after could be some local hero who saved children from a burning building or something. I don't want to get myself in a sticky situation. Let's move on. Papillion Foundation Field. This is very much like Burke Stadium that we saw earlier, minus the trees. See the difference? They should really spruce up the place because the spectators pine for more. I've really got to stop with these puns and branch out into different forms of humour. Time to turn over a new leaf and embark on a journey of... Okay, I gotta stop. And those were the Stadiums of Omaha. It was very tough to pick a favourite, but I settled on Morrison Stadium. Despite its very small capacity and its artificial turf field, it seems like a sound ground all round. Thanks for watching, have a good one.